I just said, like, Cleo's gone.
What happened from there?
Well, basically, like, obviously we went and, like, went looking, checking, making sure, like, you know, she wasn't around the tent. And then we got in the car, like, you know, driving around everywhere we could. We grew up here.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. You probably want to listen to 2 minutes 20 onwards in the clip that I provided at the link. I'll put the link in the description. It's from abcnews.net. It's the Australian network, and it's about 25 seconds. It's the whole clip based on the start of the clip that I played at the beginning of this episode. You want to listen to that clip in the context of the whole timeline that has now changed. You want to juxtapose what they said to the timeline, to the facts, right? Now, one of the things that stood out to me when I first heard those words were that they were checking, they were looking around, but nothing about calling her name. And that is something that comes across also in the John Benet Ramsey case and the Madeleine McCann case. There's no calling of John Benet, even in their home, which is the first, most obvious thing that would happen. Same thing with Madeleine. No one calls Madeleine's name, everyone just looks for her. And that just doesn't kind of pass the smell test, or does it? In Ellie's description, they woke up at 6:30 because Isla needed a bottle. That's the reason given for them waking up. They realize Cleo's gone, and then the reporter asks what happened from there. Ellie describes him searching for Cleo as well as driving around, right? It feels like quite a lot of time goes by, that they search for Cleo for a long time, that they, after they give up searching on land, they get in the car and drive around. It feels like quite a lot of time goes by. Unfortunately, the reporter doesn't actually say how long did you search. Also, she doesn't mention, as I say, calling out for Cleo or, and this is quite important, alerting other neighboring campers, which is the first thing you'd think that they would do. And the same thing also applies in the John Benet Ramsey case and Madeleine McCann case, is you would think that the first people you would go to would be, in the John Benet Ramsey case, the people next door. You know, did you see John Benet, right? And also, and I'm talking about on the day after Christmas, they had the whole morning to go to the neighbors and ask them, did you see anyone, right? In the Madeleine McCann case, they could also have gone to the neighboring apartments and said, did you see Madeleine walking around? It would make sense to go to the neighbors because they would have the best chance of having seen somebody, right?
My parents just searched everywhere.
Everywhere we could think of, like, we both grew up there.
Yeah.
Where do you not go?
And I recently lost my dog, and it was not quite a neighbor, but someone from a few streets down that actually found him running in the road. So that's something that played out in real time quite recently. And so, according to a new timeline that's emerged, the first thing Ellie did wasn't search for Cleo, but she called 000. That's the emergency number in Australia. Let me actually say that again. According to the new timeline that's emerged, it looks like the first thing that Ellie did was call this number. In other words, you get the sense that she immediately knew that she was taken, but before she'd actually searched for her. That's what it appears. And this call also happened 7 minutes before the stated time of waking up. That's 6:30. And so it is this point in the timeline that I'm alerting you guys to. 6:23 a.m. Ellie, and this is obviously time stamped, that everybody knows it based on call records, right? Including the police's system. Ellie calls 000 to report her eldest daughter missing as she continues to search the campground, right? It would also be interesting to hear that call to know where were they when they made that search. What did she say she was doing? I've also seen the time they woke up reported variously as 6 o'clock and 6:30. So that variation is also quite interesting. You would think that a family with a young child would have a kind of a regular schedule for waking up and also going to bed, right? Also, fishermen tend to know what time to wake up in order to catch the tides and also to catch the sunrise. And so you would imagine that they would know exactly what time they woke up. And also when you're camping, you do tend to know when you wake up, because you would look at your watch or you'd look at your phone, right? A few important and necessary insights to draw from this new timeline. One is that Ellie calls law enforcement. I've always found it quite important to find out the identity of the person calling law enforcement. I tend to find this not necessarily, but often a mitigating factor. And so in this case, Cleo's mother calls law enforcement first thing, not Jake, even though she has Isla and a bottle to take care of. So one's got to ask, was Jake taking care of Isla when Ellie called law enforcement, or was Ellie taking care of Isla and calling law enforcement? And although this might be perfectly reasonable, often the caller to an emergency is less culpable than the actual perpetrator, for the reason that the last thing the perpetrator wants to do is call the authorities on themselves. A few intertextualities in this regard as well are worth noting. So regardless of who was responsible in the John Benet Ramsey case and the Madeleine McCann cases, we note that Patsy Ramsey called 911, and neither of the McCanns called the authorities, although they did alert the media when their daughter disappeared on the night of May 3rd from the Algarve. So the question arises, is there some significance to Ellie calling law enforcement? What do you think? Number two, how much searching did the parents do before the police arrived? Now, I wonder whether that CCTV box would have picked up the sounds of searching. And I also wonder whether witnesses saw the parents searching and from what time. One would expect that some of the people at the campsite were fishermen, and although one wonders whether, would their backs not have been turned to the camping site while they were, focused on the sea and on, preparing to fish. In any event, perhaps they've got some interesting versions of events there. The police arrived on the scene at 7:10, less than an hour after being summoned. Unless the original reporting was faulty, an early version was that police arrived mid-morning after the couple searched the campground for hours. And note that is in plural. And so these are two news stories that I've found that are from the last day and from a couple of days ago that show these versions of events. Now, is that bad reporting, or is that the story that they were given? Then also at the third point, at 7:33, a drone operator is called. I'm not sure when the drone operator actually arrived on scene. That's not given. But by about half an hour after that, at 8:09, a helicopter is already on scene. So within 90 minutes, there's sort of an aerial search going on. And, due to the quick response of the authorities, I think it's very unlikely Cleo wandered off, or she would have been spotted. The terrain is flat and the vegetation sparse. And then the fourth point that I've got on, that I think arises as a result of this timeline is one that might surprise you. What was for dinner? And so the reason I'm asking that question is we want to know, how soundly did Ellie and Jake sleep from the night of October 15th through the morning of October 16th. Now, we've been given quite a few times, but the one time that's not given is the time they went to bed or what they had for dinner. And did they have anything to drink? A lot of people who go camping do drink when they go camping and sometimes do other things as well. So were substances consumed by one or both parents during their first camping sortie in a year? Also, what do they normally do when they went out camping? So some friends might be able to answer that question. This may have a bearing on their ability through the early and late night to maintain a vigil over their children. I think it's just a question we need to ask, and if we can, rule out. What do you guys think? If you're enjoying my coverage of the Cleo Smith case, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Like, share, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.